Hi everyone, it's Jolene. I'm here again with another episode of my video blog, Living Healthy, Living Beautifully. Today we're going to talk about fats. Fat is your friend, it is not your enemy. We have to retrain the way we have been taught. We have been taught, particularly by the medical community, that fat is a bad thing. In 1977 is when the big low-fat thing happened, and we were told, okay, we have to eat low fat. And since then, we have had a higher rate of obesity, metabolic syndrome, and type 2 diabetes. So obviously this is not working. Unfortunately, the medical community does still endorse a low-fat diet, but new studies have shown that eating a diet high in the right types of fats does not cause weight gain or cardiovascular disease. It is the type of fat that you need to be concerned about, not so much how much fat. We are bombarded by advertising on TV and in the grocery store about low fat eating. The products all say low fat on it. And that's just an advertising ploy to get you to buy the product. Remember, they're out to make money. They're really not out to help you and worry about your health. So I'm here to shed some light on what fats are good and what fats to stay away from. The first fat, which I do consider a good fat, is saturated fats. Saturated fats are usually an animal product. Butter, cheese, whole milk, cream, fatty meats. Also on the saturated fat chart would be coconut oil and palm oil. When you do consume a saturated fat, you just need to make sure that it is minimally processed. We'll go into saturated fats a little bit in a few minutes. The reason people are afraid of saturated fats is because of cholesterol. Cholesterol is not a bad word either. We actually need cholesterol in our body. Our bodies produce cholesterol on its own. Cholesterol helps us produce estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and other major hormones. Cholesterol is also needed for vitamin D production, and in this country today, most people do have a vitamin D deficiency. Cholesterol is also used to produce bile acid and also for brain health. 60% of your brain is made up of fat, so we do need fat in our diet. Also, when you eat fat as opposed to carb, it actually satisfies you more. You don't get hungry as often. If you eat, at least I find that if you eat, pasta or something like that, 2 hours later you're hungry again. If you eat fat, it slows down the food absorption, so you're not hungry as often, so you're gonna eat less. The next type of fat is called monounsaturated fat, and that would be olive oil. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. The next type of fat I'm going to talk about is a really bad fat. It's called trans fat, or what you would see on your label at the grocery store, partially hydrogenated oil. Trans fats are created when hydrogen is added to the chemical structure of fat, which then makes it shelf safe. And it is a very cheap alternative to fat. It's in a lot of food products today, mostly processed foods. And the bad thing about trans fat is that it decreases good HDL and increases bad LDL. Some things that you need to be concerned about when you eat trans fat: it leads to high blood pressure, obesity, heart disease, Alzheimer's disease, prostate and breast cancer, type 2 diabetes, liver dysfunction, infertility, depression, and sometimes even aggression. Now, the labels in the grocery store are really misleading when it comes to trans fat. A lot of times you'll look at that label and it'll say 0 grams of trans fat. That is per serving. So they're going to add a lot of servings in that box or whatever. It might have 6 or 8 servings. That does not mean it doesn't have trans fat just because it's saying 0 grams. Legally, they can have 0.5 grams of trans fat per serving in that product. You just have to read the label a little bit further and see if it says partially hydrogenated oil, and then you'll know it does have trans fat in it, even though it says 0 on the label. 87% of more than 7,500 foods that contained artificial trans fats are not disclosed. So again, you know, I know we're fighting for better labeling in the grocery store, and this is one reason, because it can be really misleading. Let's talk about what trans fats are in. This is going to be a lot of foods that people are eating now, and I'm going to list the top offenders of trans fat. Number 1, fried foods in fast food chains and chain restaurants. They use a cheap oil, so they're going, and it's going to be high in trans fat. So that's going to be a really big problem, you know, when you eat that. Another food high in trans fat is margarine. This should be something that you never should be eating. I know back in the 50s and 60s, you know, that was what everybody said you had to eat, but it's just really, really an awful thing, very high in trans fat. Another product would be shortening, like Crisco, really, really high in trans fat. They had a wonderful marketing program with Crisco saying that it was, you know, better than lard, but, you know, it's a really bad product. This is something that a lot of people use, and you really need to stop using it. Packaged cake frosting, the little tubs of frosting, really high in trans fat, really bad for you. A product that I see people use, and I really don't even understand why they use it, is Bisquick. Why are you using that anyway? It's all you need is flour, baking powder, and salt, and add a fat to it, like butter. You know, it's a bad product. It's high in trans fat. Get it out of your kitchen. You're not saving any time anyway. It's flour and leavening. Another one I see, and I just cringe when I see people using it, is the non-dairy creamers for your coffee. Why are you using that? Have you ever read the ingredient list on that? Not only does it have a lot of trans fat in it, but I don't even know what else. It's a total artificial product. Milk and cream, it's, you know, natural. It's what you really need to be using. Y'all, I just have so many problems with some of these things. Microwave popcorn. It is totally disgusting. I don't even see why people use it. It takes 3 minutes in the microwave. I just made popcorn for my son to bring to school this morning. It took 3 minutes on the stove. I don't get it, you know, just use real popcorn and real oil. Not only does that have lots of trans fat, but it just has a lot of other artificial stuff in it you shouldn't be using. Another product that has a lot of trans fat is all of your store-bought cookies, you know, Oreos and Chips Ahoy and that kind of stuff. Crackers, any cracker you buy is going to have trans fat in it. Cakes and the frozen pre-made biscuits, like those sausage biscuits, things that you heat up in the morning, that all has a lot of trans fat. So be aware of this, you know, that you might not be buying the bad oil, but you're going to be eating these products that have the trans fat in it. Try to start transitioning out of these products. Okay, the next type of oil is another bad one. It is the polyunsaturated fat. The worst offender for that is canola oil. Now, that's canola oil is something that you're going to be seeing a lot of good things about. You know, it's a lot of marketing saying how healthy it is. Well, it really isn't. First of all, there's no such thing as a canola plant. It is made from a rapeseed plant. that is in the mustard family. It is a genetically engineered plant. Rapeseed is also used for insect repellent, fuel, and industrial lubricants, among many other things. As I was doing my research, I ran across one thing that I thought was very interesting. It said that the rapeseed oil was used originally in making the chemical warfare agent mustard gas. It's in the mustard family, as I said. The FDA says that the rapeseed is safe. I don't want to use it. In addition to being from this genetically engineered plant, canola oil is processed using a product from the byproduct from the gasoline industry called hexane. So it's also that it's highly refined and you know, not good. Things that are highly refined are not good. Another bad oil, which is in a lot of packaged products, is cottonseed oil. Cotton is the worst product for being GMO, and cotton has the most pesticides used than any other agricultural product right now. So you want to stay away from things that have cottonseed oil. I know you don't buy that to use to cook in, but again, it is in these products, so read the labels. Another bad oil is soybean oil. 94% of soybeans are GMO. One of the oils that is mainly soybean oil would be the Wesson oil. Again, a highly processed oil. Stay away from it. Sunflower and safflower oils, you see that in a lot of packaged food products too. That is hexane extracted, highly refined. And then corn oil, you see that's your Mazola corn oil, and I've been seeing some commercials lately from Mazola about how healthy it is. That again is a highly refined oil, GMO, and it is hexane extracted. So now that I've told you what you shouldn't eat, I'm going to tell you what the good fats are, the ones that you should be eating. Butter. Butter is a really good fat. If you can, make sure that it is from a pastured or grass-fed cow. The one we're using right now is actually a cultured butter, and it's kind of like fermenting. And I know some of you may have heard how good fermented foods are, so try to get a really good quality butter and use that in your cooking. A great monounsaturated fat to cook with is olive oil. We use different types of olive oil for different things. If I'm just going to be cooking with it, I use the extra virgin olive oil that I get in a big container. You know, it's not as expensive as your you know, unrefined olive oil, but it's a good product to cook with, to saute with. You can also get the pure version if you want a lighter tasting. I actually make my own mayonnaise, and that is going to be what I use in that because I don't want a really strong extra virgin taste. If I just want an oil to finish something with, I'm going to use an unfiltered from Italy or Portugal or Spain. I'll have some really good tasting olive oils, but again, like I said, they're expensive, so that's just going to be as a finishing oil, or maybe if you want it in a salad dressing. Another fat, which is my favorite, is coconut oil, and I know I've talked about that in my granola episode. This is coconut oil. Right now it's solidified because it's probably under 75 degrees in the house right now. Coconut is a really good oil because it has what's called medium chain fatty acids in it. The medium chain fatty acid triglycerids are assimilated in our body very well. I use this is probably my main oil I use in cooking. In addition to cooking with it, it has 1,000 uses: moisturizer, hair conditioner, massage oil, and dental oil pulling, etc. It's just a fantastic product, and I always keep this on hand. The next oil I have is the raw organic red palm oil. Now this is not to be confused with palm seed oil, which is in a lot of packaged products, and that's the bad one. So you have to make sure it says the raw organic red palm oil. The other product, the palm seed oil, is a product you don't want to use also because it has really caused a lot of destruction in the rainforest. It's in a lot of cookies and ice creams and crackers and things like that. This one, no, is not. It is sustainably farmed, and I like to use this. It actually not only adds a good taste to things, it's slightly different. It's not an unflavored oil, it actually has a flavor to it, but it actually adds like this red color. So one of the things I really like to use this in is popping popcorn, because it kind of gives that little buttery look to it, and really a really nice taste to it. Some other good fats, believe it or not, is lard. Lard has less saturated fat than butter. So if you want to do some deep frying, or if you want to make a pie crust, don't use that Crisco, use some lard. I also save my bacon grease, and I usually use that to make a roux with. Again, it is a saturated fat, but saturated fats are not bad. They also have some nut oils. The one I have right now is walnut oil, but I've seen pecan oil. There's just different types of nut oils, and they're all really good. I also have some avocado oil here. I just got that one. I usually use that in salad dressings. And lastly, even though it's a refined oil, if I have to deep fry something, which is not very often, we usually only eat deep fried things maybe once or twice a year, but when I do need to use it, this is a refined product, but it's the best one you can get. It's peanut oil. It's non-GMO, and like I said, it is refined, but it would be your best choice when you do have to deep fry, which you shouldn't be doing that often anyway. So I hope I've shed some light on what oils you need to be using, and remember, oil is your friend, it's not your enemy. Stay tuned again for another episode of Living Healthy, Living Beautifully. And just remember, eat real.